Hello everybody, welcome back to Go Big Bore or Go Home, where recoil is required. Why? Because we're the house of the rising gun. This month I'm running a little bit late, so I decided to do a twofer to try and make up for it. This month we're going to talk about if I were to take a trip to Alaska and be facing down Kodiak bears, what would be the 5 big bore handgun cartridges that I would prefer to carry, and what 5 would I prefer to pass on? Now I'm sure you're wondering, Sean, what's with the Marlin 1895 SBL and 4570? Well, to be honest, this would be what I would prefer to carry if I'm going up against Kodiak bears. But you can't always get to your rifle in time, and in some cases, it might not be practical to pack one. So in those cases, a big powerful handgun would really come in handy. Now please keep in mind, this is a personal list of what I would carry. I'm not necessarily recommending you should carry, and I'm probably going to mention some that you would carry that I'm going to pass on. Please feel free to tell us in the comments below, because this is very open to interpretation and I want to know what you think. And with that said, let's play smash or pass with some big bore handgun cartridges.
Pass. Number 5. The 460 Smith & Wesson Magnum.
What?
Now if you just did a spit take in disbelief,
What the f-
I don't blame you. In terms of power, this cartridge has more than enough to take a Kodiak bear. In fact, it has been used to hunt them with great success. This and the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum run right about the same muzzle energy. So why, in the name of all big bore lovers, would I pass on this round? There really is only one reason for me, which is why I only put it at number 5. The 460 Smith & Wesson Magnum gets its intense power from the incredible velocities it can sling lead at. And to really wring this cartridge out, in my opinion, you need a barrel of 7.5 inches or more. And being that the X-frames, long-cylinder BFRs, and the Taurus Raging Hunter are already massive guns, if you were to carry one of these in the field, a long barrel is really going to decrease your ability to swiftly bring the gun into action, though probably still quicker than a rifle. Now, if this is your choice, you'll get no argument from me that it can and will do the job. Tons of power on tap. It just wouldn't be the one I'd grab, as I feel the sacrifice in velocity would make it as effective as our number 5 to pack pick, which to me would defeat the purpose of picking the 460. Which brings us to our first choice on what to take with you. Pack. Number 5. The 454 Casull. Unlike the ultimate powerhouse that is the 460 Smith & Wesson Magnum, the 454 Casull can be chambered in standard large frame revolvers. Not that a Super Red Hawk, Super Black Hawk, Freedom Arms Model 83, short-cylinder version of the BFR Raging Hunter or Raging Bull are small revolvers, but they are reasonably sized and easier to pack than, say, an X-frame. In terms of power, the 454 Casull will not let you down. The cartridge was designed to be able to take any and all animals on the North American continent, which it certainly can do. Its high pressure and heavy .45 caliber bullets will easily ruin the day of anything you run into in Alaska. But all of that power in a .45 revolver at modest sizes is going to cost you. The 454 Casull is one nasty round to control. If you're a fan of our channel, you know how much we have discussed this. The 454 Casull is honestly one of the gnarliest recoils I've ever felt. It is a handful, and that could create issues with a follow-up shot. Not to mention, if you wind up in close quarters firing it, the recoil could create real problems. All in all, it's a solid choice, just not my first. Pass. Number 4. The 50 Action Express. Unlike the 460 Smith & Wesson Magnum, this one is very hard for me to see as a good choice. Not that it can't be. There is no doubt that the 50 AE has a massive amount of power on tap and it can hit a target super hard. But the whole design of the cartridge brings up concerns in terms of practicality. Let's start with the obvious. The main platform for this round is the Desert Eagle. Now, I love my DE, and the 50 AE barrel has shown impressive accuracy that's made my jaw drop. But it's heavy, awkward to carry or bring into action, can be very finicky in terms of reliability, and has limited ammunition options. Sure, you can get a BFR or custom revolver chambered in it, but that brings us to the next issue. This cartridge was designed for the Desert Eagle platform, which means it has a tapered crimp and an overall cartridge length limited to the 44 Magnums. Those two factors are very problematic. The round has to headspace on the case mouth as it has a recessed case rim. This means you can't roll crimp it, which will significantly increase the likelihood of crimp jump. Not something you want to deal with in a survival situation, let me tell you. And the limited overall cartridge length will mean limited bullet weights, as anything too heavy will decrease powder capacity and severely impact velocities. When it comes down to it, there are just better options for the job than the 50 AE. Pack. Number 4. The .480 Ruger. Here's a powerful round that is quite livable. Mostly. The .480 Ruger will provide an Alaskan explorer with good, strong power in a reasonable package just like the .454 Casull. But unlike the .454 Casull, the recoil is nowhere near as abusive. It is a big push backwards, but the lower pressure means less snappiness. And considering the Ruger Super Redhawks will chamber 6 rounds, it can provide a force for nature to reckon with. But it is less powerful than the .454 Casull. That isn't too much of a downside, as despite the lower power level of the .480 Ruger, it is still a noticeable step up from the much-beloved .44 Magnum. I personally would want to pack Buffalo Bore's 410 grain hardcast rounds with a velocity of 1,200 feet per second. Not many animals are going to be able to handle that force, much less get back up. The downside comes in locating revolvers, ammunition, and/or reloading components. At the time of this video, brass is extremely hard to come by on the open market as we're still recovering from the market drain caused by the unknown virus of unspecified origin. Not to mention that this chambering isn't in high demand, meaning it's not a priority for manufacturers. And .476-inch bullets are few and far between even when the supply is good. But if you can get what you need to carry it, the .480 Ruger will not let you down. Pass. Number 3. The .44 Magnum. Here's another one that will probably make a few folks irritated. Again, I totally understand. Let's be honest, in terms of big bore Magnum power, the .44 Magnum is the benchmark by which all others are measured. And for good reason. When properly loaded, this cartridge can take pretty much anything. But that's just it. When properly loaded. When it comes to black bears, this is a damn good round to count on. It will have no trouble stopping one of those fellas. But against brown bears, it starts to get pushed to its limit. And against bears that can weigh as much as 1,600 pounds like the Kodiaks in Alaska, the power of this round starts to look a little less than enough. A good hardcast bullet at high velocities in the .44 Magnum will do well. But to get a .44 Magnum to sling enough lead fast enough for Kodiak bears is going to realistically push the round beyond Sammy specs. The 340 grain plus P plus loads from Buffalo Bore that have a velocity of 1,425 feet per second should be plenty of power for a Kodiak, but they are too long to pack in some revolvers like the Smith & Wesson Model 29. Not to mention, they are well above the 36,000 psi maximum pressure at around 50,000 psi, which will put a strain on your revolver. While the .44 Magnum shouldn't be seen as incapable here, you're going to really push the round. It really is just a better choice to move up caliber. Pack number 3. The 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. As Lawrence Fishburne said in John Wick 4,
"Long live the king!"
If you pack this cartridge, there is absolutely no doubt you will have enough power to stop anything that is currently walking this earth. Even if you believe in Sasquatch, he will be no match for this round. When it comes to power, there really is nothing, save maybe the .460 Magnum, that equals the big 500. And even in the less than max loads, you can put a hurt on any Alaskan bear you encounter. The downside of this beast is the size of the gun required to shoot it. Like with the aforementioned .460 Smith & Wesson Magnum, the 500 Magnum requires an X-frame, a long-cylinder BFR, or a long-cylinder Taurus Raging Hunter. But where the 500 gets the nod is that it gets sufficient velocities even in a shorter barrel. While it can have pressures close to the .460's 65,000 psi, the brass is shorter and wider. That means it's less of a stacked powder charge that, from my personal experience, doesn't seem to be as adversely affected by a shorter barrel. Meaning that even compared to other .50 calibers, it still has an edge in power. The shortcomings go back to the size of the gun and the costs involved. BFRs and Raging Hunters with the long cylinder and X-frames are behemoths that are hard to pack and to get into action. And they are not cheap revolvers, and they can be hard to locate. At the time of making this video, the Taurus Raging Hunter and 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum is not really available on the market. Seriously, I've seen one here and there. And the cost of good, stout, well-manufactured ammunition is expensive. But if you don't mind the weight of the gun, nor the cost of admission, this might be your Alaskan trail buddy.
We're now in the presence of the Mother King!
Pass. Number 2. The .460 Rowland. I really wish I wasn't saying this. I love the .460 Rowland. It really is what the inventor claims. 44 Magnum power in a normal size semi-auto. But there are very viable reasons why, though I would pack this for black bear and smaller animals, I would take a pass on carrying this one for a trip to Alaska. One of the concerns I have around this round is properly tuned conversion guns. I've seen a number of folks online trying to shoot this round and facing malfunctions. There's a reason for that. You need to realize that this is very seldom chambered from the factory, and anytime a conversion is done on a stock gun, you will need to tune it by adjusting different elements like your recoil spring to get the gun functioning properly and reliably. Don't get me wrong, once you do, you will have a reliable powerhouse of a semi-auto, but you need to take the time to do it, which most folks don't. The main concern for me, though, is finding ammunition that is up for the task of a Kodiak Bear. This cartridge is very limited with its case capacity. So once the bullet goes over 255 grains, the velocities start to nosedive. And while velocity is important to penetration, when it comes to penetrating thick hides, tough muscles, and stout bones, you need a heavy bullet as well. With the Rowland, if you push one, you lose the other. Like the 44 Magnum, I would simply prefer something with more power. And like the 50AE, I want a cartridge that is less limited in terms of projectiles. Pack number 2, the 475 Linebaugh. When it comes down to Alaskan trail defense perfection, this cartridge comes really damn close. This round is noted as one of the best penetrating handgun rounds as it has heavy bullets with significant velocities that hit hard and keep on going. The late John Linebaugh even noted it was a better penetrator than the 500 Linebaugh. It really is hard to beat this round in terms of performance, and the packability is just as good as any other large frame revolver as well. I will admit the 475 Linebaugh's recoil is quite a handful, especially when ammunition is pushed to maximum specs. But what really reigns on this round's parade is its rarity. If you want to buy a 475 Linebaugh revolver, there are 3 choices: the Magnum Research BFR, the Freedom Arms Model 83, or a custom build. And when it comes to finding ammo these days, you're looking to specialty manufacturers like Aria Ballistic Engineering, hi there Jason, Buffalo Bore, and Grizzly Cartridge Company. Or you can load your own. And while brass for the 475 Linebaugh is easier to find than the 480 Ruger, the trouble of finding bullets will be the same headache. So maybe there's something better. Pass number 1, the 10mm Auto. I bet everyone who's watched our videos is going to be shocked.
I am shocked! Shocked!
But you shouldn't be.
Well, not that shocked.
While I do love the 10mm, I am more than happy to be realistic about its limitations. The 10mm Auto packs quite the punch, and for areas that have nothing bigger than a mountain lion, which is admittedly still a big beast to contend with, it's my go-to trail round. A lot of folks will take the 10mm into bear territory with hardcast 200 to 230 grain ammunition that is launching those pills at up to 1,250 feet per second. And that can and will do a lot of damage. But is it enough that I am willing to bet my life on it? See, that's another question. Much has been made of the 10mm's power, and in my opinion, too much. I'm not saying it can't take a bear. A few years ago, an Alaskan fishing guide dropped a Kodiak bear with a 9mm Smith & Wesson loaded with Buffalo Bore outdoorsman rounds. But it took 7 or 8 shots. Something tells me the 10mm isn't going to be able to drop a large brown bear with one shot either, and that means multiple accurate shots. Granted, I wouldn't stop pulling the trigger of any gun when faced with a charging bear until the critter fell and lay lifeless. Still, this round doesn't even generate 1,000 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, putting it on par, realistically, with the 357 Magnum in terms of power. I would just prefer to have more power on tap if I need to use it. And despite people saying it's a bear round and it can compete with and or beat the 44 Magnum,
Right.
I would absolutely prefer more power when I'm up against pretty much any variety of bear. And number 1 to pack. Drum roll, please. The 500 JRH or 500 Linebaugh. If you've seen my previous videos about cartridges for hunting large, dangerous game, I bet you saw this coming. When it comes to putting down a dangerous, thick-hided, large animal, nothing says "not today" like a good stout 50 caliber. And the reason I listed both of these is they are ballistic twins. I almost included the 500 Wyoming Express, but until the brass and/or ammunition is resolved, I am not recommending it personally, although Aria Ballistic Engineering does offer it. The 500 JRH and Linebaugh cartridges are only found in custom revolvers and the BFR, but considering the BFRs are a lot of revolver for the money and reasonably easy to find, that really opens the door. The 500 JRH can shoot bullets up to 440 grains, and since they are .500 inch, they are super easy to find for reloaders. And while brass is very pricey, you can also make it from 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum brass, so there are options if you know how to use a chop saw. And while the 500 Linebaugh's bullets at .510 inches are a little tougher to locate, they still are easier to find than the .476 inch bullets. And you can load those up to 525 grains if you want. Limited options, but still plenty for the intended use. And in terms of power, these rounds hit hard and penetrate deep.
That's what she said.
I have got to stop letting Ashley at it. I apologize. If you aim well, one round could be more than enough to stop anything, but even if you need a second shot, I think these are easier to control than the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum, the 454 Casull, and in my opinion, even the 475 Linebaugh. If you're willing to do some practice, these are cartridges that you can get back in line for follow-up shots without a problem. Like John Linebaugh's description of the perfect trail gun, these revolvers are powerful, practical, and packable. So let's recap those lists before we go. On the cartridges, I would pass on. Number 5, the 460 Smith & Wesson Magnum. The need for a shorter barrel shortchanges the power. Number 4, the 50 Action Express. A 50 caliber with many obstacles to overcome. Number 3, the 44 Magnum. Powerful, but there are better options for the task. Number 2, the 460 Rowland. Needs proper gun tuning and the bullets will be lighter than desired. And number 1, the 10mm Auto. It's just not enough gun to ease my anxiety. On the cartridges to count on. Number 5, the 454 Casull. Lots of power and gun options, but lots of recoil too. Number 4, the 480 Ruger. Fantastic when you can find a revolver, or the ammo, or the reloading materials. Moving on. Number 3, the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. Nothing more powerful, but it will be heavy and slow to wield. Number 2, the 475 Linebaugh. Lots of power, but still rare enough to frustrate an outdoorsman. And number 1, the 500 JRH or 500 Linebaugh. For Alaska, these are the perfect pack and pistols.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the lists. What would be the 5 big bore handgun cartridges you would prefer to take to Alaska if you were headed there, and what 5 would you prefer to leave behind? Please share with us in the comments below. If you liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe as it really helps us out here on YouTube. And if you didn't enjoy it, I thank you for giving us a chance and making it all the way through to the end. And as always, guys, go big bore or go home.